Hello and welcome to the DeLever myAPC Diary instructional videos, and we are now looking at candidate information page. Now this is the first page you will come to whenever you open the diary, and very simply it's all the details about you. So I'm going to walk you through top to bottom, left to right. So let's start on the top left. So we have first name, surname, email and RSS number. You'll notice these are highlighted in green. This means you cannot actually edit them. This is data that we put into the system from your registration details. So if I was to double click this cell, it will come up with an error message saying, sorry, there was a problem. You're trying to edit a cell that's not available. So literally just click OK and that will go away. You'll also notice on the right hand side that we have little instructional pointers as well that says what data is available in the cell and what you can add to the cell, what you can do with it. So light yellow cells and white or grey cells with a drop down arrow are the cells that you can edit. So you can double click here, you just highlight the text that's already in there and it will delete as soon as you start typing, and you put in your phone number as you see fit. Likewise, if you're at a university currently, so if you're using this part of an apprenticeship or anything else that you're doing at university, part-time course, sandwich course, whatever it might be, again, just double click and then you can select and enter the data. Or to tell the truth, you can actually just click over the top and you can just type straight in to it as well if you want to. Pop your employer name in. Now you can select your country wherever you're based, and you'll notice these are on set drop down list. Now again, if you try typing something into this cell, you can do that, but as soon as you press enter it'll say no, sorry, you need to pick from the drop down list. So just easier to go for the drop down list to start with. And again, just check our little notes on the right hand side, click the arrow for the drop down list. There's the arrow, drop down the list, and down the bottom I'll find the country I'm in, which is United Kingdom. You can select that. Select my pathway, so that's the type of surveying you're doing. Now I'm a quantity surveyor, so I'm going to select quantity surveying and select your route. So we have various different routes through the APC. So if you're doing a structured training route, you might be 12 or 24 months. There's prelim, tenure and senior professional as well. You may choose to use these. We often say to prelim and tenure candidates, it's worth keeping a diary of what you've been up to, certainly for our prelim candidates who are trying to prep and look at any gaps that they may have, and then for senior professional, maybe the CPD section and the summary of experience. Whilst summary of experience isn't necessarily required for SPA, it's always a useful thing and it's a good thing to do, so you can see that you have covered your competency base. So I'm going to select candidate 24 months, so that just reminds me what route I'm on, and then I can double click again and put my supervisor counsel in, or just click over the top. So we're at David Jones. So now as we move down the page, we come to the assessment information. So today's date, that again is an uneditable field. That's just popping in there today's information, and that's taken from your computer's clock. So as long as your computer's clock is up to date, it should be putting today's date in there correctly. Then we have our enrollment date. So this is an opportunity for you now. You'll notice on the right hand side also there's other validation that pops up. So you'll see here, please double click the cell and select from the calendar, or if we click outside, I'll say double click the cell for the calendar pop up. So if you double click the cell, you can select the date that you want to put in when you enrolled on the process. Now the enrollment date may be different to your start date, so that's entirely your choice. You can use this system to manipulate the data however you like. The whole point is it's a management system, so you can manipulate data however you see fit. So if you wanted to start the diary a few months before your enrollment date, so you've got a bit of float in there, so you can go back a little bit if you want to, you can do that, or literally again you just double click and you select the date. Now just a gentle word of warning here. The system will go away and take this date that you put in here under the diary start date and create 6 years worth of diary in the My Diary section. So what you need to be cautious here is once you've started typing data into the My Diary section, obviously the data you're typing in is relating to the date that you've put in the system. And I'll show you that in a separate video. The key thing to bear in mind is if you then decide to change your start date, the dates will change in the diary, but it will not shuffle the data that you've put against that date. Now, there's an easy fix to that. You just copy and paste it into the correct place if that's what you decide to do. But it's just worth bearing that in mind, that the date you want to go with here, that you start with, is pretty much the date you want to stick with for the whole duration of what you're recording. But it's not unachievable if you did want to change the date. So that's why I always say, if you're thinking, oh, it's going to start on the 15th of February, then I would start the system on the 1st of February. Okay, so that gives you a little bit of float in there that you can then mess around with if you so choose. If you're backdating, you can set that date to whenever you want. You could set it back 10 years if you really want to, and you can set it forward in advance as well if you really want to. I can't see why you'd want to do that, but again, it gives you that flexibility if you want to. So that's the start date. So quite a key thing to bear in mind. Then we've got down here final submission. So are you sitting in the UK? As we find other dates, we'll put other dates into the system, international dates, etc. once the RSS publish them. But very simply, you can put in when you're going to aim to submit your data and information, and then what year you're going to be assessed. So you can put that information in as well. Now, obviously, I should have put in session 1 2021 there because we're submitting in March. So you'll match your submission to your assessment date. And again, you've got the little guidance notes on the right hand side there that's going to give you all that information. Right, let's now move down to the competency selector. So the idea behind the myAPC diary is complete flexibility and management of your process. So we have also built a little bit of redundancy into the system. So at the moment we have 10 competencies mentioned here, or is it 11? 11 competencies mentioned. So we have the latest 2018 version with inclusive environments, and you've got diversity, inclusion, and team working, which are new mandatory competencies. So we've also got a couple of spare boxes here. These are for when RSS, if they add any more to the mandatory list, we can then update that and or the selection of. So you select your competency, again, very simply, you select by picking a competency from the drop-down list, and then you select the level that you want to take it to. Now, the level will impact on what happens in the My Summary of Experience, and I'll show you that again in a different video when you watch the My Summary of Experience page explained. Now, let's just point out here as well, the system has a little bit of error checking built into it, so you can't make mistakes. Now, if you try and pick the competency twice in the same section, it will warn you. So let's go for accounting principles. We've already got that at the top there picked. It'll highlight immediately red. Now, the reason it highlights red is because in the diary, if you now select accounting principles in the diary, everywhere that you have selected this in the logbook will duplicate the number of days that you've recorded in the diary. So if you have it selected twice from a list, you're going to double handle the time, or you're going to have a double amount of time. So you wouldn't want that to happen. So very, very simply, come back to it and go, oh yeah, made a mistake there. I'll put that back to select, and the system will go away and say that's fine. Now you'll also notice, which I'll talk about in a moment, let's take client care this time, up here on the top right, or at the top in the, well, right to the middle of, you'll see there's an error marker. So we're going to look at the error checking and the warning systems built into the system as we go along. There's a lot of error checking built into this, all based around many, many years of experience of dealing with candidates with the APC. We've been running an APC diary in Excel, online, or in Google Sheets now for nearly 20 years. So we've got plenty of experience in how and what mistakes people tend to make, and that's one of them. Now, again, don't forget to select your levels, so that's fine. Those are already pre-selected for you because they're the mandatory competencies, and they're going to be the same for everybody. As we then scroll down the page, you now have an opportunity. Now, again, bear in mind, read your pathway guide. We have technical core competencies, we have technical optional competencies, and we have optional plus. Only certain pathways have optional plus competencies, and when you're reading it, it'll say, oh, and you can also pick from the full list of competencies to level 2 or 1 at level 3, whatever it might be. So again, the system is not here to make you pick and choose your competencies as correctly to the pathway guide. It's here so you have complete flexibility to trial and to test your experience against different competency areas. So let's say, for example, you weren't sure which optional competency to choose. You've got to choose 2 or 3, and you think, oh, I'd like to look at that 4th one as well. Then put the 4th one in and record time against it. Again, your overall days will be a bit skewed because you'll be not necessarily recording those correctly because the overall total will add all of the things in. But you might then decide, actually, yeah, that 4th competency is a better one than one of the other 3 I've selected. So I'm now going to drop the other one. I'll go back and recode those competency areas, and then I can carry on with the competency that I think is going to work for me. So you have some flexibility there as well. Now, just a note here, if I was to pick accounting principles, now this time it's not going to highlight, and that's because sometimes in the optional competencies selection, which is linked to the technical cores, optionals, and optional plus, you get to upgrade a mandatory competency if you want to, and sometimes in our cores as well. So these are now, the error checking is now linked to these three. So if I come in here and let's pick a different one, let's go for agriculture this time, and I try and pick agriculture again, then I'll get the error warning. And likewise, if I picked agriculture down here in this box as well, I would get the error warning. Okay, so just be aware of that, and also make sure you're selecting a level. So we're going to take agriculture to level 3. Let's drop these out. Let's pick something else. I'm going to do big data. This isn't any one pathway, by the way. I'm just using these for ease. BIM management, let's put another couple in here. Let's go for building control inspections. And so you can see you can be as flexible as you like. And you can select your competencies, you can select your levels of what you're deciding to actually do. Now, whatever you select in this list here will appear in the drop-down list in the My Diary section for you to select and allocate time against. You'll note you will not be able to select any of the mandatory competencies because your 400 days as a 24-month candidate or 200 days as a 12-month candidate are only relevant to your technical competencies. Okay, so that is pretty much the candidate information page done. Now let me talk you through the other bits that are on here. So we've already seen the error checking up here. So let's make it have another error. Let's pick this one very simply, accounting principles. Let's scroll to the top. So, oops, myAPC diary error, please check. Now that will appear on every page when there's an error. Okay, if you want to know which page the error is on, is this box underneath that bright red one will highlight in a very light shade of red instead of being green, and it'll say check the competency selection, check something on this page or whatever. The other thing is on the right hand side here we've got a little status box going on which will tell you which page you've got an error on. So if you are unsure where the error is, you come back to this, it will tell you which page. You might have multiples of these lit up. Certainly if you make a mistake in the diary, the logbook and the diary will probably light up together because they're linked. Okay, and in the summary of experience or CPD log, so you know which page the error is on, because sometimes that error might be down the page out of sight, so you'd have to scroll down, and wherever you scroll down you find the bright red box. You go, ah, yeah, that's where it is. So we can come back to here. We'll now edit that and put it back to just select, and now you can see it immediately stops the error call and it's gone away over here as well. Other things, registered copy basically means you are running a registered copy. We felt that it was better that you register this for free with us rather than just have a copy of someone else, because you won't get the updates. So if you just copy this and give it to a friend, you can do that if you want, but the system will not be registered and therefore it won't work. And you won't get any competency updates and you won't get any technical support and so on and so forth. So it's always better just to have a registered copy. If you don't have a registered copy, click on, if not registered, then click here and very simply put your mouse over it or click on it. You get a link, click on the link, that will take you to our web page. And likewise here we've got myAPC Diary Help, same again, you can click on that, that will take you to our web page. Now, that's how those elements work. Now let's just have a look at this help tips on. What does that mean? Well, as you can see, we've got help tips at the top of the page here in blue. Got lots of little bullet tips as we go through the system. Once you get into it, or you maybe want to print a page but you don't want that all over the page, well, we've actually set a little system in here where you can turn them off. So if you click on off, they now go away, and all of a sudden you've got a nice clean myAPC diary that you can use and edit because you know what to do with it. However, if you are unsure, then just leave them on. And it's as simple as that. So they'll just turn those on and off for you, and as you can see there's lots of tips going throughout. And then lastly, on the right hand side here we have the DeLever bulletin boxes. Again, pop your mouse over it and it will click on a link and take you to that link. This is our opportunity just to drop you information, so whenever you open up the system there might be a box in here with some details or information or a link to something or something new that we're doing. So it just enables us to send you a little bulletin about what we're up to, and if there's anything of interest there, then we've got 3 boxes, so we're not going to inundate you with loads of information, but very, very simply you can just click on one of those and it will take you to the relevant web page. Okay, so that is the DeLever myAPC Diary candidate information page. Hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, then please do come back and ask us. And if I just scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll find our contact details. If you click these links through to our website, or on the top right, you can see the DeLever.com. So you can always find our contact details there and come back to us and ask us any questions that you may have. Thanks ever so much for listening. Bye-bye.